Welcome, fellow travelers. My name is Porcini's Mushroom.
And my name is Litz Envoy, and I'm joining Chibi and Vertek
At the Golden Feather. Come on in.
Grab a seat.
And let's share some
Tales of adventure.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Golden Feather Tavern, where your hosts, Chibi and Vertek, discuss Ashes of Creation and important topics spoken about within the Ashes community. At the tavern, we invite you, the viewer, and a special guest to pull up a chair, grab a pint, and join the conversation with us. So, today is the 20th of September, 2025. We're on episode 244, Economy Issues. The traveling bards joining us today are Porcini's Mushroom and Litz Envoy. How are you folks today?
Doing very well. Thank you for having us.
Not too bad. Happy to be here as well.
Good. I'm always happy to have you. You folks are cool peoples. Love dropping by your streams there. Nice chill spot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Chibi, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. I figured our guests have some magical hats on, so I joined them in the magical hatness. And then we realized that we didn't have one for you. Yeah, no. We're gonna have to change that, I think.
You know what I do have? I have a magical mug. Okay.
Nice.
Part of to kill 10 bears before I got to the mushroom boss to get to this hat.
Chase down all those myceliums.
But yeah, aside from that, doing pretty good. Glad it's Saturday again already.
Ooh, my goodness, time does fly.
It does.
What else do we have on tap today?
So we have a couple of topics that we're going to be covering tonight, such as gear drop and the general sentiment of crafting, as well as some potential things like guild upgrades and the corruption system, things like that. But most importantly, Volga says Vertek has to wear a mask. Oh, now I have to sub. yes. But most importantly, we're going to be chatting with Porcini and Litz about who they are and about the fungi crusade, I will call it. So yeah, we'll kick it right on over into you guys. If you like this kind of content, sorry, my dog. If you like this kind of content, consider giving us a follow or subscribe to our YouTube channel, and definitely come chat with us in the chat, either in the description or live, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. So first and foremost, welcome in Porcini, welcome in Litz, and you guys are part of which guild?
We're part of Fungi Fellowship, which is our main hardcore guild, and then we have 3 other divisions: Fungi Sanctorum, and we have Fungi Fellowships, which is our seafaring division, and then we have Fungi Citadel, which is our PvE RP division.
Nice.
Okay. I like the fellowships.
Yeah. I like that play on words. Thank you, Nihili.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Why you decided to join Ashes?
Initially, I joined Ashes because I'd heard that it was based off of Steven's Dungeons and Dragons campaign, or maybe it was Pathfinder, but a TTRPG. And I found that to be really intriguing. I also like sandbox MMORPGs, and I like to explore vast worlds. And the fact that this had sort of a seamless transition between biomes really intrigued me. So that was my initial interest in it.
Awesome.
I've been playing a lot of MMOs, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2. And I'm just always sort of going through all of them, checking them all out. And this one had a lot of, and still has a lot of interesting concepts and things that they're doing with it. I'm a big fan of immersion, and what I was kind of motivated to do, and part of why I joined the Fungi Fellowship, was trying to help foster an RP community and diving into the lore. Still trying to figure out a lot of the lore in the game, and there's not a lot out there in the actual game right now. But it's fun when I do come across these kind of moments where I'm like, oh, I can actually learn something about the lore a little bit. But what drew me the most was just, yeah, it seemed like a very ambitious and is a very ambitious MMO that we're all a part of testing right now. So excited.
Yeah. Yeah, same. I actually have also been enjoying the roleplay community. Been hanging out in the Ashes roleplay community Discord a lot.
I've been a bit of a hermit lately, so apologies there to anyone who has come across me before. But
Nice.
It happens. It happens. Every once in a while, you get to hermitize.
yeah, just out there. I like to go to the parts of Vera where no one really is and see what's up with those areas.
Fair.
Nice. I love exploration. So,
Same here.
what is? Let's start with your personal approach to adventures in Ashes. What type of stuff do you personally like to do? Each of you, like, what's your? Are you PvP warmongers? Do you like to just PvE? Like go fight mobs? Do you like to explore? Are you a crafter?
I am a dungeon delver for sure. I definitely lean more toward PvE than PvP, but I've grown to enjoy the PvP in this game, I think, because the combat system is so much fun and engaging. But my true interest is definitely in like grinding bosses or doing raids, that kind of content. I find that to be really satisfying.
As for me, I've been doing less dungeon diving for now. I hope that with instance dungeons, I might get a little more into it. But in this last phase, I think Porcini, right? I was doing a lot more RP events for our guild, trying to like utilize locations and sort of like figure out, like have all of us gather and be like, what's going on with this world? Where are we? And play characters that are really trying to explore Vera. In the new phase, I'm just trying to level my scribing and really focusing on that. I have had a little separate endeavor of adventuring and trying to make underwater breathing potions and see if there's any secrets they're hiding underwater. So I want to get the guild together, or anyone else that wants to join, and have a little scuba expedition and see if we can find anything. I got plenty of dead coral to make us a bunch of underwater potions. So
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah,
I love
there
it.
kind of were in previous phases. There were some underwater things.
Yeah.
Litz is living in a coral abode.
Yeah, I was talking with Litz before the stream about our both of us liking alchemy, kind of, but he actually wants to do more of the scribing. But I love alchemy, so it's really fun.
I mean,
We
it's
both
kind of
have
like
our
I end
potions,
up
too.
just doing both to level them up. Oh yeah, potion.
Nice.
The scribing's tough, but it's cool though. Every scroll I produce feels more rare and more meaningful in some regards because of how much like effort it takes to produce it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's fun.
So, what is one thing so far in 2025 that has been added to Ashes that you are the most excited about, and why?
Ooh, good question. I do like the crate system. I think it's really fun to like put a pack on your back and march onward to a distant node with your buddies. And what else? I've been enjoying was Tropics in 2025. It's all blending together for me.
Yeah,
It
Pretty
was,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
added in
I think we
2025?
only
So
had
Tropics.
Riverlands
Okay.
before the new year. Yeah.
Definitely Tropics. That's might be my favorite zone. I also really like the anvils though. I think they did a fantastic job on the anvils. I know it feels like still a little maybe empty, but just the terrain and how you traverse through it is so
Yeah.
interesting. And I think it'll provide for a lot of really interesting content later, especially with like ambushes and, you know, being forced to go down these trails or maybe even jumping off of a cliff with a bard. I love that idea. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anvil's definitely has more rough edges than Riverlands, but Riverlands has also been out there a little bit longer. But
Yeah.
we took a trip through there and did the start at level 1 grind for a bit, adventured around, found some cool stuff.
It's really cool out there, right?
Yeah, I know
Yeah, I really
the
like
intro
it.
area is really nifty.
Yes. I'm actually excited for them to have it a little bit more polished, and then I can't wait to go out there again a little bit more. What about you, Litz?
I don't know if this sounds corny, but I liked seeing the small progression as things go on. Like I was so excited to see just like every time the map expands, it gets more exciting because it starts to you start to see the real big picture of it all too. And the fact that there's supposed to be a whole nother continent is still like blowing my mind, because I feel like if we just had this whole full continent, like that's a lot of like places and content and stuff. The fact that there's going to be like an entire other set of zones and everything that you can traverse via ship or other ways maybe is like super exciting. So yeah, like just seeing the anvils. I'm a big explorer. Like I've been trying, I might go down to Jundark and see if like there's like a point of interest I wanted to check out there. And yeah, it's sort of like every time they update, just seeing like, oh, they finally put something here that's really cool on what it is and stuff. So I think just watching the game grow is sort of my answer to that.
Yeah, I love it.
There you go. So here's a question for you. This one might take a little bit of thought. So
Sure.
I would say what class, but not everybody has like all 64 classes memorized. I know I don't. But if you can get as far as specific as class, then definitely do that. If not archetype, which one are you envisioning as being your main that you're going to run with because of play style and enjoyment? And then a second part is, what one do you think fits your actual real life personality better?
Porcini, I know my first answer, but if you got one ready to go.
Yeah, I got one. I'm gonna play Guardian, just because as GM and my primary role is leading groups into dungeons and grinding for gear. Let's hope, knock on wood, they'll bring that back soon. I find that it's easiest to play tank because it's kind of that quarterback position in the guild, at least in groups. Mm-hmm. So when I'm leading raids and parties, it just makes it simpler. But I would say, what class do I identify with? Like personally, it's probably more something to do with nature. So I would either say Ranger or Summoner would probably be my go-to. So when Summoner comes out, that'll be one of the classes that I'll play as an alt on the side.
The secret class.
I'll be a hermit too in a coral abode, summoning seahorses.
I'd love to be a battle mage. I don't know. It sounds typical. I love magic. I love swords. Combining them both is just fun for me. We'll see what the class ends up being like. And then I think, what's the inverse of that? What's like fighter with mage?
Fighter with mage is
Spell sword.
Spell sword.
Spell sword. That is also interesting too. Like I one of those, like I can get a little bit of both. Magic or whatever is really cool. Personality wise, I also agree with Porcini. I'd love like a druid type of class in the game, something that embraces nature a lot more and actually uses like, nature spells. But we'll see. I'm kind of excited to see like how different the dual classing would be.
Yeah.
And like there might be one that I'm like, wow, I didn't expect this to be what it is, but I love it. Like, because there's a lot. There's what you just said, for it's like 64 combinations.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
The incentive there for me like grows so much as a player to like, I want to try them all, because then eventually I'd be like, okay, that's the one. That one was so much fun, and then stick to that one. But
okay, hear me out. 10 years down the road, or 5, or whatever it's going to take, they come out with a monk base class. That would be so fun. I've talked with Anchovy about this a lot, and I think it would be super cool to be a monk tank. That's what I want. I want to
Interesting.
Awesome.
So how many people in the guild, by the way, just random offshoot, how many people in the guild are actually named after pizza parts?
I think 0. Unless you count anchovies, unless you like anchovies on your pizza, then I guess 1.
It's like I never actually put the 2 and 2 together there, that anchovy could be a pizza topping for cheese.
But sorry, Liz, were you going to respond to anything else after that? I heard anchovy, and we've got the mushroom in the chat here, so thought there might have been more in there maybe.
You're kind of inspiring me to make like a pepperoni character. to have us be in the guild. But
That's funny.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Chibi, did you have any other questions to dig into them on a personal level before we get into Ash's topics?
Yes, actually, I can think of one more.
We got.
What is one thing that you would like to try to do as a guild during either Alpha 2 or the betas that you think maybe would bring your community together?
I would like to fight Tumok as a group. I'm pretty sure we can do Firebrand. I don't know if we've done Firebrand as a just us. Usually we're with somebody else at the time, just by happenstance. But I think Tumok would be really fun. We just haven't gotten around to it yet. Hopefully that will take place maybe midway through the wave or toward the end.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers. Huzzah.
Porcini's probably heard me say this a bunch of times, but I'd love to, and open to anyone else, like do some kind of more like long-term narrative experience where people can like work on their characters and I can like bring them across the world. Or it doesn't have to be me, but like something where we can come together and like RP a bit, but actually give some tangible things to do in Vera and like use points of interest that are maybe empty right now, but like breathe life into them with like, something cool, like some sort of event or just hanging out. So
yeah, I think that'd be really fun to orchestrate like a large like RP event, perhaps.
Exactly.
You had the idea of you had that one idea, Litz, where you get like 100 level 1s and we all go fight a gorilla. I think that would be hilarious.
One of the ones in June Dark.
Yeah.
I'd like
to do that.
Go get him. Go get him. Yeah, because you always think back to like the old school Hogger raids that used to happen with WoW, where it was just spawn in Stormwind, level 1s, just stream out until we get them.
Yeah, kind of like doing more fun stuff like that sort of can get people together and play the game in like a different way. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and I just think when they start to get a lot more optimization for the networking side of things and whatnot, you could get literal like 200 to 400 to 500 little level 1s going around and just like locusts sweeping over a giant map.
That'd be hilarious.
Oh man, March of the Minis. Let's go.
March of the Minis. All right. Well, so the way that we do our podcast is we typically grab conversations from either the Reddit or the forums or a mixture of both, and we like to bring them into one podcast where we talk about what the community is talking about. We typically did this every week, but since we're kind of spacing them out, this will cover 2 weeks roughly, and we also typically get a pretty good idea of what the community is talking about the most in that 2-week period. So to start us off, we have somebody named No Plan Danny who says possible solution to dropped gear being better than crafted gear. And the general idea of this is that gear drops cannot be repaired and crafted drops can, as well as just I've seen a lot in either the forums or Discord or even somewhere else on Reddit, even in game, where people are talking about how the dropped gear should not exist at all and it should be 100% crafted gear, or that the dropped gear should only be lower tier. I believe this is something we talked about on our Tavern talk as well on Tuesday. Oh my gosh, thank you, Volga. So what are your thoughts on this? And Vertec, feel free to adjust as well after we get initial thoughts. Cheers.
Cheers. Well, I think the two systems need to somehow be bridged. So it's been told to me before that people have suggested that when you're in these POIs and you're farming these bosses or other kinds of mobs, they should be dropping common gear, and that common gear could be broken down with deconstruction kits, and perhaps some of those materials could be used for the crafting system. And then you've kind of created a bridge between the two different play styles that I think would really be a benefit to the game. I still think that high level versions of those gear should not drop often, probably. Like I agree that I think crafted gear should be like end game, because that makes sense to me. But it would be nice to be able to have some basic gear to be able to do these POIs, and I don't know, you get something from it, right? Because it's like each time something drops, you're getting that dopamine hits, and that feels good. And you're like, I've accomplished something here in this dungeon, as opposed to like sitting there forever and you don't see anything, you know. I can kind of understand why they've limited the drops now, because they want people to focus on the crafting. I personally don't enjoy it because it's an executive functioning nightmare for me personally, just being that I have ADHD, but I can understand why they're doing it. But it doesn't feel good to farm and not get anything. So yeah, I don't know. That would be my solution for it.
Fair.
To like answer more, this person's saying that they want to make the drops from mobs or dungeons not repairable, right? That's the kind of the spin on it.
Yes. So the idea is that your dropped gear, instead of being able to repair it, your crafted one, because it's more handcrafted and it's like custom, it's more likely to be repaired.
I think there's a sentiment there that's really cool, although it would like suck to get an insanely rare drop and then it's like, all right, once you're done with it, it's gone. But I think there's something there of like giving value to both crafted gear and both gear that's dropped. And I think what Porcini's saying, like making it more rare for people. I mean, there's plenty of MMOs where that exists, right? Like where there's legendary gear that you can craft and there's legendary gear that drops. And it's probably just speaking to that right now. There's obviously like a drought in dropped gear. And like, I love crafting. I love the idea of making my own gear, but at the same time, like if I'm adventuring and I get a really cool piece of armor, I'm not going to be upset at all. In fact, I'm going to be very happy about it. To have it be unrepairable is a little extreme, but I think that it's speaking to this person speaking to like, yeah, like trying to give an importance to it. I mean, what if like maybe a craftsman could repair it and not a regular vendor or something? So therefore you have to kind of utilize another player and bring people together in order to like repair that gear. But it's hard to say, because I guess it depends on like what the drops are. I do agree with Porcini though. I think that there should just be more common gear and more like lower level stuff that at least comes out first.
To build on that, I think like, what if the crafted gear just has a higher durability, you know, as opposed to the gear that you would find that's been lying around in a forge for super long. It's just got low durability, breaks more often, so your repair costs are higher. I don't like the idea that it would just be broken forever, because that, I don't know, that would feel bad, but I can kind of understand why they might do that, just because it would keep people going back to the dungeons, you know, and like the things would continually be recycled. But I don't know.
Vertec, what are your thoughts?
It's definitely a complex problem, right? So if you're going to have a game that has both drops and crafting, which I think it should, then you got to make sure that you're focusing on the crafters when you're trying to make that an important part. So they need to be like the top of the food chain when it comes to gearing out people. And hey, Birdie, thank you as well.
Huzzah!
Cheers.
10, thank you.
Push a fireball. Much appreciated.
I'm having some water first, and then I'll have some fireball.
Dev spy confirmed, says Mr. Noobtastic. But yeah, it's a complex problem because you don't want to completely shove out crafters by having all the gear drop of all tiers and all the everything, right? Because that's gonna mean they're just kind of making some spare change here and there. That you've still made it useful, much more useful than many other games, right? So you can still make the top tier gear, but if it's still dropping at the same thing with zero difference, then some people won't even bother interfacing with crafters. They'll just sit there and farm all day, every day, make money, find gear. So the question is, where do you meet in the middle, right? And I say meet in the middle just because that's my opinion. Some people don't want there to be a middle, or some people don't want any gear to drop whatsoever. But I thought it would be nifty if the high tier stuff like artifacts, those, I mean, the word artifact, it means from a previous time, right? So you can't just craft an artifact. That would be like today going and being like, yes, I have built an authentic artifact pyramid in my backyard. No, you have not. It's not an artifact. Sorry, I've just built a 1950 whatever Chevy. No, you haven't. You've pieced together parts and recreated a Frankenstein or something. You didn't build the 1953 thing. You built a replica or whatever. Same kind of thing. So I've always thought that like things like that should drop, but it should have a super low durability. That way you basically need to immediately go to a crafter with a piece to repair it to be able to use it. At least you have the gear, right?
Right.
Because also in Ashes, the other complication is that if you're just putting mats out there in the world to drop, then that means you are always at risk of losing whatever mat just dropped. You could fight a big world boss, you could get the super legendary mat to build the legendary bow, and somebody rolls right over your party while you're recovering, slays all of you, and whoever got that part, guess what? They don't have that anymore.
And others could get destroyed, like just completely get destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. And if you happen to drop 3, well, guess what? One of those, or even 2, because rounding errors, right? What is half of 3? 1.5. Does it round up? Okay, then 2 gets lost. 1 disappears to the ether and 1 drops to the ground. And now you can't craft that thing. You got to go back and fight the thing again. So gear dropping actually gives people at least a chance to have some kind of a gear. And I like how Steven said like tier 1 stuff would drop, but tier 2 and 3 would need to be crafted stuff. I know there was a little bit of a different statement he made that all the stuff will still drop, but crafters can make it all. So maybe just a severe, like super low percentage of the tier 2 and 3 dropping, and it can only go up to like blue.
Are we also sorry to? It just like begs the question, like too. Like I mean, I'm a big WoW guy, played it my whole life, and like a good quest can get you a good piece of gear, and it's rewarding, and it feels good, and it makes you little like I don't know. There's that. It hasn't been a thing in Ashes at all, and I just wonder if like that's not in the vision. But as we're talking about like drops and stuff, like is it so bad to just give like a mid-level kind of gear? It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but for having nothing, like my character is not geared out at all. I'm a huge target on my back right now.
I think there's actually like a quest that does give gear. I think they're just not quite there yet. I think that there is still a lot more that needs to be done with the questing system. I think that the entire like story system needs to be put in still, the narrative system. But we have at least one starting welcome in. We have at least one starting quest that has gear that it gives you to start with, and that's within the Second Sword Outpost. And I think you could also start with some gear or a spear for a magic user with the parcel quest that you get from Lionhold. So while they're in a very small amount. However, I'm pretty sure this is the first phase that we actually really have these gear quests. Why, Erwin? Why? What did I do?
Erwin. Yeah, I don't know. Like in the end, yeah, it's gonna be complicated to find a decent balance, because personally, with Ashes trying to go the PVX, like advertising is solidly this is a PVX game, and crafters can make the best shit. So it's kind of enforcing that there's going to be stuff out there for PvE players, for PvP players, for PVX that want to fight everybody and everything all at the same time, and for economy focused people. So if all those playstyles are valid, then why should a PvE person or a PvP person be bound to and like worshipping of crafters to be able to do anything in the game? Why should crafters be bound to and tied to absolutely worshipping PvE folks? Because, guys, like don't put all that stuff on the marketplace, and don't drop so many things for the PvE people. Like there should be a decent balance to it that everyone can kind of get with. Like
I agree.
Gear drops, you can move forward, but it's going to be tough. To really succeed, you have to go to a crafter. Yeah.
To get the fine goods, the well crafted stuff, right? No, but there's obviously any RPG, single player, MMO, everyone loves the feeling of you explore and then you find somewhere and get a good drop too as well. But like you're saying, like then to be like, all right, I've had this sword for a few levels now, I really want to replace it, can't really find any drops. Then you approach a crafter as a master artisan who can make something for you. And I think that's where you're saying finding that balance of like having both available would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense to me, because then you can sell, regular gear if people don't want to craft, and they can use those funds to buy high level stuff, and it kind of circles back.
Yep. You got the paper plates you can put out on a normal basis because that's what you find laying around, or you go to the crafters to buy the fine china if you really want to make an impression.
Are you calling my wand paper plate?
hey, call a paper mache.
Yeah, no, I definitely have my weapons are paper plates for sure.
That's how I'm feeling right now, like a paper plate walking around. I definitely feel different with my gear this time around.
It's funny, this conversation.
I want more paper plates. I'm not even fully geared.
Thank you, anonymous gifter. Much appreciated. But yeah, this conversation right now is making me think of an old photographer friend that Chibi and I have called Cardboard Accessories out in San Jose.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, that's what he went by, and everyone was confused. Why'd you choose that name? Because it's funny.
I love it.
You remember him now, right? So it's something, right?
It stands out.
So I guess this kind of goes really well into the general sentiment that the community has, is that the crafting is a little too intense at the moment. And this goes from just there's way too much for crafting an item at the moment, so it needs to be simplified, which is by Stricker 2? I don't know,
Stricken 2.
I don't know how to say this. Thank you. And then also there's this other opinion that recipes are too complex. I don't know why that did not copy the web link, but okay, there we go. That the recipes are too complex and require too many mats. And I definitely feel that on a novice tier 1 level. I actually, when we had our interview with Steven, I mentioned that I think that novice tier 1 has too many mats to it. It's too much of a barrier of entry just to get into getting some gear as a novice player, because who's going to be making novice tier 1 gear? The brand new player, the person that just created their character, not the person that's going to be going into whatever profession long term. So making sure that tier 1 is accessible, in my opinion, is highly important, not only for the first time user experience, but also for getting an interest in a crafting or artisanship in general, because the simpler you make it to kind of get into it, the easier you kind of get a sense of what that artisan is about. And then you can extrapolate from that the deeper levels, in my opinion. Yeah, 200 boards sounds like a lot when out of context. Absolutely.
They definitely, Porcini and I were kind of talking about this earlier today, and I like the nature of how hardcore it is to have to do it, but I agree, like after novice is probably when it makes more sense, because then it's like, that is a true master of their craft. That's someone that dedicated a lot of time and energy and resources to be a master of their artisanship. But then on a novice level, it's like, what's the harm if people can make strong gear, especially when the level cap's going to be 50 eventually, where it's like this gear is going to be out leveled anyway. So like, what's the real harm in everyone creating it and having it and being a little geared up? So I agree with you there, like making the lower levels of it much more accessible and less daunting is probably a better player experience, right?
Yeah. Honestly, my take on it is, you know what, on the lower level stuff, the novice tier, like you send someone out, you go to get some logs real quick, and you look down and you go, that one looks like a sword, I'm gonna go sell it. Looks like a sword. There you go, there's your novice tier. Literally just you can spend an hour gathering supplies and you should be able to make a couple pieces of gear at a novice tier, because it's all junk, right, relative to the rest of the world, the rest of the game, and how much time you're spending in that level bracket. it's all junk. It's all going to get replaced in like 12 or less hours. If you're a hardcore role player trying to play that low tier character, you're still not going to spend forever there, right? And if you're a role player, you probably want your gear to be
cosmetically
junk.
look good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, I mean, for all those reasons, like, it doesn't need to be that hard to make novice stuff, in my opinion. Like, make it super accessible. Make it just anyone can dive in, spend, you know, like I said, an hour or two, and be able to make a couple pieces of something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that because it encourages people then to participate in the other systems like the PvP systems. But if they don't have access to gear, they feel sort of locked out or gatekept from those systems. Because like, what's the point? You know, I can't defend my caravan because this other guy's got like a legendary
Way better gear than
chest
me.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I don't even have. I'm just wearing the paper plate. You know.
Just
It
get
took
out of
me
the
forever to make it.
crafting cycle and get into the rest of the game. Do stuff. Enjoy it.
I mean, regular
Yeah.
mobs in a solo play are tough if you're not geared up. I played the first phase and I had a way easier time because I actually could gear myself up. And now, like, I'm trying to kind of go about. I'm being my hermit self, and I'm like, I can't quite handle certain mobs. It depends on what they are. If they're like anti-mage, then it's easier for me. But like, or vice versa. But it's definitely a high curve of getting into the casual player. Like, I think it's not catering to the casual player. And it's kind of probably what we're all speaking to, right? Like the casual player experience, which should be a player base that they should want to invest in because that's your monthly subscription and stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Also, Salt God's daughter says, yeah, the
Yeah.
complexity, all the cool new stuff to craft is fun, but it takes too much time to gather, process, and craft for me. And I think that that's an important thing to consider because one thing I've heard over the last week or two is that the current systems for artisanship is not respectful of people's casual playtime. And I think that that's a thing that is going to be a theme going forward because I think a lot of the harder core PvPers are already here. But as we go into more PvE systems being added, you're going to start seeing more of the casual / harder core PvE players coming in. And that they're going to have their opinions as well. Additionally, Spaghetti Adventure says, yeah, people at level 25 with initiate gear aren't going to PvP. Heck, I'm level 13, 14 with like very basic gear that some of it was handed down to me and some of it was like whatever I could find basically. And I still feel like we die way quickly and I'm not able to heal as nicely as I was used to healing previous phases. So the gear definitely makes a huge difference in not only how you play, but how the game feels.
Yeah. And Salt God's daughter also says, just white knuckle tanking with common stuff I've found. As a Nico, I just bob and weave. Yeah, tumble.
I do. Oh, sorry, Vertec, you go.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was talking to Porcini earlier, and I mentioned this a lot, and I am giving Intrepid the benefit of the doubt on sometimes in game development, you want to crank up your settings and stuff and be like, all right, well, let's make the crafting really hard and see what happens. And this is the reaction they're getting. And I'm giving faith in them that like, all right, well, here's the feedback. Like, it's not quite working, but, you know, hope you gathered some data from this. But yeah, like I think Porcini, what you said earlier, like 1,000 pieces of wood for like one gear is like a crazy kind of number where you're like, even a hardcore player, that is a lot of time to spend on something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And go ahead, Porcini.
I don't, it's like I don't mind the idea that it's difficult. I just don't like the numbers. I don't like the difficulties in the numbers, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the fun part is, if anything, maybe I'd like to see materials being more rare to find, more hard to find. Like there aren't so many nodes of things floating around that you can chop down. Maybe you can only chop down trees after they've turned to an adult. You can't chop them down earlier, so that you have fewer things out there that you can collect. So then the numbers are smaller, and it just. I personally, I think that would feel better because you got to hunt down the resources. Gatherers are going to have more value to them at that point, because they're going to know, what things look like when they're fully grown, or, the kind of nooks and crannies you got to go into to find stuff, because there's not as many nodes of things just floating around.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just my thoughts, my opinion.
Porcini, you said
I share that same sentiment.
You had the same
actually.
sentiment.
Yeah.
I also want to give
Oh, go ahead.
I also want to give Intrepid the benefit of the doubt because when we had Steven on, he did mention like he is aware that the economy system and the crafting system is not really where they want it to be yet, and they're still working on that. And that's going to take time, and there's a deeper conversation that we may or may not get into later in this podcast episode about like wiping and things surrounding that. But I also want to point out something that Noobtastic said. The devs have been known to adjust systems to kind of nudge people towards testing certain things. So if crafting in this instant feels bad, you're more likely to go out and grind to try and get gear, because that's where you're going to find gear easier. That's going to be more respectful of your time. However, I'm stubborn. If that's the case, I'm stubborn and I don't like grinding. So I would rather grind for gear than grind against mobs.
Yeah. And you know,
and
this kind of brings... Oh no,
yeah,
sorry, complete your thought, and then I'll...
I was gonna bring up something that people have said in the chat, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, because I was gonna spin off just a little bit to the side and try to get your guys' opinion on, do you think that every game should be set up to, you know, respect the casual players' time as well as be difficult enough for the hardcore? And do you think that's actually able to be done in every type of game?
Or cheating me or you?
Go ahead if you have a thought. I have a thought, but it's regarding something else, so I can wait.
To answer your question, Bert, I think that is a larger like MMO. That's like a hard thing to tackle, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
To give, you know, you think of like, what do we want these worlds to embody? Like fantasy universes where, you know, if every player was the chosen one and is the best and could just casually play it, that's kind of boring. But then at the same time, if you want to be the hero and log in as a casual player, but there's people that have been playing it, you know, weekly for hours on end, that feels that there's something else that feels that way too. And I think that's a hard thing on a developer standpoint to really hit the like perfect medium. I think crafting is a good outlet for one regard, because like someone that's putting that is creating things that are giving players something. Whereas if a player is training to be the very best, they're going to be able to violently be the very best as well. But there's also something to be said about that. It's a hard question to answer, and I think it's a really great question to ask. This game is really creating a lot of different systems that sort of make you ask that question, doesn't it? Right? Like, because I think it's because players can hurt each other and can kill each other in the middle of a town. And that kind of begs the question of like, all of a sudden I care about PvE on a deeper level because I could be killed for it without my say in the matter. And in an ideal world, yeah, it'd be awesome if you could cater to both the hardcore player and the casual player and somehow have it work. But I don't have a visionary answer for that. But Porcini, if you, I don't know what you were gonna say.
That's the big question. I mean, how do you reconcile those two vastly different perspectives? I think they're trying to attempt to do something that is just it's really challenging, and I'm sure these systems will get smoothed out, you know, as we approach the future. And to kind of build off of that and what Chibi was saying, like, yes, it is going through a lot of growing pains right now. But I think if you look at the past of Intrepid's like development past, where in Alpha 1, the combat system was like apparently like very needed a lot of work, and they completely redid it after doing these iterations, and now it's being hailed as like an amazing combat system. Right? Awesome. But it did take a lot of time and a lot of growing pains to get to that point. So I hope that that same thing can happen with the crafting, you know. It's just we're in the trenches right now they're trying to figure out, that is what it seems like to me, you know, to kind of build off what Litz said as like they're limit testing these the numbers and stuff. I'm not sure why it's so high still, you know, like but maybe there's maths in the background that like I don't understand because I'm not a developer and I don't do coding, and like that's gonna be really difficult for me to understand, you know. So
yeah.
Cheers.
And, cheers, Triple. So I know my opinion on it is it was controversial at the time, somewhat, But when WoW came out with basically the story mode raids and like easy mode stuff, I thought that was both a good move and smart on their part, because for one, it does open up easily accessible content for like the very casual and people who just want to enjoy the story part of things and that type of thing. Because there's nothing wrong with that, you know? Like everyone for one has different like skills, capabilities, reaction times, or patience, or time on their hands, or just they want to see the story and they just want to kind of play through it a little bit. They don't want that challenge today, or they didn't want it at all.
Vertec, what expansion was that? Was that Wrath when they were kind of coming out with that?
No, I'm trying to think when that was. I think it was like, shoot.
Was it later than Wrath?
Yeah, I think it was maybe like Warlords of Draenor or something like that, somewhere along that time.
I remember like Wrath starting to see that writing on the wall of like,
it's like the LFG raids.
Yeah, and there again, like it's great for like logging in after work and playing, but then I felt bad about this. And back then in my guild, there were some people that was really hardcore about it. But it's funny, in the same guild, I had someone who, great person, quad paraplegic, and he had a lot of difficulty with the PvP stuff because it's hard physically. He had actual, difficulties playing the game. So he's like, I don't PvP. He's like, but I love PvE because it's more systemized and stuff. And you just kind of said something you hit on there. Kind of said that people's like physical and life kind of stuff, like it makes it difficult to sometimes play the game. And I guess the question for Trevor is like, what's the game going to be? Like, is it for casuals or hardcore players or something else?
And then sometimes it's actually a conscious decision. Like sometimes somebody doesn't have the time to sit down and like a new raid gets launched out, right? And they know they're going to be blocked up with time for the next X amount of time, and they don't want spoilers coming out with the cutscenes and all this and that. So hey, I'm going to go through on story mode. LFG it up. Let's go. I want to get the visuals of this and that and the other, and kind of get an idea what this raid's all about. And then in a month, when I have time to actually go hardcore with it, I can dive in. But I think with Ashes, part of the very low tier gear dropping to at least get people through some content, even if it is barely scraping by, it's something. And adjusting the crafting to be a little bit more accessible on the bottom end, and then get more challenging and more complex as you go up. I think those are two ways that Ashes could definitely be a little bit more accessible by casual players, by those who don't have a lot of time, while also giving the hardcore the massive benefit of they are going to come to you if they want the good stuff.
Yeah, I think Vertec too, there's a addictive nature to giving the players that experience up front too. Like, oh crap, it was so easy. Like it feels good when it feels good to level and get things. Now you're kind of hooked in. If you make it hard out the gate, you're gonna lose players, and people are gonna unsubscribe to that 15 a month that it's supposed to be at launch. But if you can hook them in and they casually get in, they get that novice stuff and they feel good. Oh, I made all my gear. You know what?
You got to get that hook in, you know?
Yeah, like I think it's as a business model, is it not a good thing to like give everyone the easy stuff to like get in, and then it makes it more enjoyable too.
Yeah, exactly. But
I agree with you 100%.
Did you have anything you'd like to add on that, Chibi? And you've been quiet a little bit for this part so far.
No, sorry. I totally engaged in a chat with Porcini and chat about TTRPG. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Then
but
what were
no,
you on to?
Well, just to recap, what was your question exactly?
So the question was, do you think that every game should incorporate a way to absolutely engage and respect the time of casual players, while also having some form of content or engagement that's worthwhile for the more hardcore?
I would say no, because then you have things like what's that one that I really sucked at that you tried to get me to play with you? You have like all the bosses. Elden Ring. You have games like Elden Ring, right? And the part of that game that feels great is knowing that you've dealt with something extremely challenging. And shut up about jump puzzles, Erwin.
Jump
Get
simulator.
out. But I think that basically having something that's more complex gives you a greater feeling. Now, having something that is meant for all people, right? So I guess to break it down, my answer is it depends on the game. So if you have something like Elden Ring, which is intended for the harder core group, then oh my gosh, thank you, Porcini. Cheers.
Porcini, thank you.
Then you have something that should be harder. It should be difficult because that's the premise of the game. Something like an MMORPG, however, I feel is in a different situation. I think an MMORPG should have a easier entry level to it, but it should still have that ramp up to something that is more complex and difficult to still be able to achieve that excitement of being able to obtain something. Like, think of people that do achievement hunting, right? The whole point of the achievement hunting is not all of the achievements are easy to get. So once you finally get there, it's that sense of satisfaction.
Yeah. Like, honestly, a lot of it, I think, it can play off that meme video that they toss at the like the voiceover people toss in where they go, well, I bet you're wondering how I got here. You know, because they start with the explosion, the cool stuff, the feel, the emotional impact of what was that, and then they go and actually start the video or start the movie or whatnot. Like a lot of great movies do that, and it's because they seat that hook into you right off the bat. That way they glue you to the couch to watch it.
The cold
every game kinda
open
needs that.
is the official term, a cold open, or you
Cold
just
open,
give
yeah.
the audio. Yeah, the cold open. You give the. Sorry, I have a media background. Is my kind of.
Okay.
Nice. See,
Yeah,
you know what-
a
you know
good
what I'm
cold
talking about,
open
then.
hooks people in. Yeah, because you're like,
Absolutely.
and all of a
that's-
sudden you're like backtracking to get to where that is, and you're
And I think that's something that Ashes would take severe advantage of, is if you make everything accessible off the bat when it comes to crafting. Like, hook them into what the idea of what you're going to be doing, but make it easy to
Well,
outfit your friends, you know?
Yeah. There's a larger question too that I've had for a while of like, is story the real like afterthought here? And on a developing standpoint, I can totally understand why, because story you can kind of put in, you can hire your actors at the end and like bring everyone in. But I'm like, are we gonna get cinematics and Sanctus and like see like exactly why we're walking through the divine gates, and like are we setting up, like, I know the ancient ones are coming and I don't know how much lore you guys are privy to or not, but you know, like,
Voice acting.
Porcini just pitching himself right now. But you know, like that's what draws me in, and I think a lot of other players into every RPG, because is it not all because we want to escape our reality a little bit and be a part of these epic fantasy worlds and stuff? And I wonder if at the end, when they polished it over with fantasy stuff and good stories and quests, will I care less about maybe these smaller things, and I'll be like, oh, I'm so like, you know, I'm learning about this ancient structure over here in the mountains, and you know, yeah, I'm crafting and stuff, but like that's my goal, is to figure out what the heck is going on with this region of the world. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys have any news on that front, or know anything else more than I do about, is there going to be more story soon, or are we just like in the alpha phase testers? We're working on the down and dirty.
I don't think he's intending on doing story anytime soon. I think he wants to hold that to his chest at least as long as he possibly can up until launch. So we'll probably see that closer to like second beta.
Long time.
But yeah, the AI voice tech is very interesting. It's kind of fun to also pick out like inconsistencies in the text, but I kind of agree with you. I think if the story is good enough, then it will hold certain players' intention, or attention rather, but it's not everybody's intention to be a part of the story. So for example, a lot of PvPers, they don't care about the story. They just want to be there for the PvP.
Of course, yeah.
So that story is not going to bother them at all. And I think that making sure that these core pillar things are polished nicely is extremely important before we leave alpha, because these are going to hold precedent for the game going forward.
That's a very, very good point.
Yeah,
And I have
um,
to hope patience. Sorry, you go, Vertec.
And oh, no worries. But I think, if I recall correctly, the last comments that were made on cinematics is that they weren't really going to be making cinematics.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm kind of hoping they change their mind on that, because cinematics are another thing that's like, it seats people in. It makes them like really invested in the story instead of just going out into a wild world and doing nothing. Like, imagine playing anything, like even World of Warcraft. Would it have been anywhere near as interesting to people without the massive, like amazing cinematics that they did. No.
Yeah.
Funny you say
That's
though. I
fair.
think. Or sorry, you go.
I was gonna say that's fair. I think that the cinematics do matter a lot, but to add in really quickly, the problem is we're only gonna have 20% of our dungeons instanced for story. And the other side effect of that is Vertec, I've talked to you privately about wanting to do a like choose your own adventure for our content for our followers. And as much as I love cinematics, that alone, the number of diverting pathways that are optional, that are like potential options that could happen, you'd have to then make a cinematic for every single one of those. And then what if none of them ended up with one of the cinematics that you paid a lot of money for? And now you've shoveled out all of this money for all of these different cinematics for potential different outcomes that you're not sure is ever going to even see the light of day. And I understand why their answer is no, because we are the center of the story. We are the reason that the story is changing.
Yeah, the one thing I'd like to say about that, though, is that they've said that there's going to be a main story quest. If there's a main story quest, they probably aren't doing like massive branches or anything. It's probably going to be node independent because they need to make sure that everybody on every server can experience the main story quest. So it's probably not going to be really reliant on branching stories outside of when a world event happens that is pre-designated to have a different outcome.
But see, the primary story is going to have its own branches, which means that like our server, if Porcini and Litz end up on a different server, our server could go a whole different path than their server could go.
That is cool. I do love that aspect.
Yeah,
I do think it's really cool that like your capital could be Winstead. It's like, oh, mine's like I'm trying to think of a random other node and like not the Riverlands, but somewhere in the
it's hard.
I know because I know the Riverlands too well, but that is really cool. But I see both here, and I don't know. I guess Vertec, here's a question: is like, did the cinematics, and for you, Chibi, they don't need to be like paid ones. Maybe there's ways of doing it where it's like you can have just like a camera angle sequence set off, like kind of how Ocarina of Time, you walk into a dungeon just to establish like, you're in the Highwayman Hills. Here's 3 shots, just a little extra immersion. And then there's obviously like deeper story stuff. I think Sanctus too, if the story's blanketed to like, I have a theory that Sanctus is. Can I speak about that stuff here, like theories and everything?
You're welcome to.
So I think the moon in the sky that's exploding is Sanctus. And I think that we've like left it because something bad happened, like the ancients attacked it. And we're forced to now enter Vera again through the divine gates. And so that could just be an easy cinematic of like chaos and everything, and your character just running through the streets heading towards the divine gate to just escape. Is there something people that I do, or like I saw like a smirk?
I can see that. I can see it. I mean, my whole thing is with the moon is that the Harbinger comet things that were flying in actually busted through the moon on their way past.
Oh, that's cool.
Just shot right through it and exploded it.
Well.
But I don't know. I think to keep it realistic as far as expectations on the dev team without expanding to 100,000 devs and artists is that they're going to have limited branches, and more often than not, they're going to re-merge back into a continuous story on the other side in some way, shape, or form. It's just, if you take this branch, this thing's going to happen at this event over here. If you go this branch, this other thing's going to happen. But in the end, it's going to bring us right back to a common end on the other side. But there's at least something marked down in history that the way you got here was following this branching path instead of that one.
Yeah.
That's my theory on it. Otherwise, it's going to end up being just absolutely wild.
But that's also a fair assessment and an easier workload, like you're saying, for the dev team to handle. To not have to have these many different ends and stuff.
Like the multiverse.
Would I absolutely love to see like these great cinematics? Absolutely. I mean, World of Warcraft, as Vertec mentioned, did a phenomenal job. They're to this day one of my favorite cinematics to watch. But oh my gosh, Phantom Yosha, thank you for the raid. Welcome in.
Thank you for the raid. Thanks for bringing your friends in. How are you? How was your stream?
Yes, and we are currently interviewing Porcini and Litz Envoy in our podcast. So welcome in. And so I kind of wanted to bring us on, if it's okay, if we're done with this topic, to the next topic, which is that for Sonaris, the current guild upgrades feel heavily incentivizing for Zerg gameplay, and that let me make sure I actually copy this perfect. They claim that the size will always trump power for the benefits. What are your thoughts on this? Because, I mean, that's going to be always something big. I don't know how large your community is, Porcini, but our guild is rather medium in size. And so, you know, it's important that we're able to use strategy and power to be able to outdo or match up nicely against somebody who has the numbers.
We're also medium in size. And yeah, I agree. I think what people end up doing is they just make new divisions. Instead of using your guild perk points and putting it into increasing your population, you just put into luck or guild war damage, you know, something else that's going to benefit you in a much larger way. I guess if you had enough people to run crates, maybe it would be worth doing, but I don't know. I feel like having different divisions of 50 people that are all active and just dumping into those damage stats and luck it just outweighs the population increase. I can't rationalize why I would do that currently. So
right.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a problem.
This is a complicated one. I have like a larger, and Porcini's obviously as the guild leader is handling a lot of everyone and trying to cater to a lot of different play styles. So he's dived into it more. This one like rubs me the wrong way because the just like Zerg culture in general. I don't know how to start on this without like getting. The fact that there's no instant dungeon. Emotional. Yeah. The fact that there's no like I've avoided dungeons because you can be wiped by another group of people. That's not my experience in any MMO prior to this. And maybe I haven't played a lot of PvX stuff, but like it's a wild concept to me that I could be somewhere looking for gear, fighting bosses, learning the lore, and get wiped by people. And that's been a huge turnoff for me, and that's why I kind of play the game in a much more isolated hermit kind of style. And so to hear that like, oh, the guild system is catering, I'm like, it seems like a lot of things are catering to the Zerg style. I know that we just had a huge drop in, you know, what's a few weeks ago, that there's not as much gear drops. And it's funny to me that there's not a lot of gear drops when other players have a lot of really good gear already. So once you patch that and you make it so that no one else from this point going forward can have gear, you're kind of letting everyone else that had the gear already and keeping it, you're like letting them be the people that are the strongest in the universe. And that's awkward. It's an awkward thing to be in as a player. Like it puts us in a really hard position. I don't think that would fly in a live game. I don't think that kind of patch and that kind of attitude would work in a launched game environment. But maybe I give them the benefit of the doubt. There must be some kind of overall motive here or incentive, but that's what I'll say for now. I don't want to get too into it or start ranting. I also haven't dived into too much of like what the guild trees can do and something. I think Porcini, you could probably speak on that more because I know our division, our main division has leveled it more. Yeah, it's I'm the only one that levels fine. we have 30 points in our RP division.
Sonorous is saying that it claims that the size of the guild will always trump power benefits. So let's say I leveled up the guild size in one division to its max, but why would I do that if I could just take those people and put them in a new division and then just do the war benefits and then just have all those guilds declare war? Then I get the size and the power benefits. So I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah, it's a tough balance for sure.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion though that like any mega guilds that are doing something like that, they're only going to be able to spread out so much because to get the benefits of the alliance participating, you can only have so many guilds in there, right? And then you got to
Yeah.
have like another like out of game alliance with another alliance that's the other half of your guild. But in the end, I think this this whole question or situation is really going to be dependent on, are you talking about open world objectives? Are you talking about open world events? Or are you talking about things that are limited or capped by user participation? Because you could absolutely have 3 minimal sized but max powered guilds, or like even what is it for 250 v 250, so you got 5 of them. You have your whole alliance participating. All of your alliance guilds are all, you know, minimum count but maximum power, participating in a 250, which is one large 200 person guild plus 50 from somewhere else. The large guild that has minimal power is going to get absolutely destroyed, without question, like absolutely destroyed. Unless the power difference is only 5%, in which case, yeah, it's going to be I mean, even outnumbered, it's going to be interesting, or I should say, if outnumbered, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But if it's, say, like a 20% power diff, I guess that kind of begs the question: how much power difference would it make to be on a battlefield with a 200-person guild fighting a 50-person guild and have the outcome be 50-50? Like, how much of a power diff needs to happen there? Is it like a 20-30%? That way the one person could take out 4 people?
I think that's something that Intrepid is going to need to sit in test, right? And I think that that's where the PTR should really come in and be utilized deeply, because not only can you have things like the 50 or so guild be going up against toe-to-toe a 200-person guild, which is the maxed out like single guild, but also, like, how does that feel for both sides? Does it feel like the 50-player guild is actively on a similar level in terms of power to the 200-person guild, or does it feel like you are still at a great disadvantage? And these are things that I'd love to see the PTR kind of delve into and test these very specific niche situations, just to make sure that everything's being tested to the best of its ability. And I do understand that the 50-200 is a bit much to expect being 50-50, but I'm referring to it more so like more on even footing with strategy than without any sort of other upgrades in place of just doing the strong 200 power. Does that make sense?
Honestly, yeah, because I was phrasing that out, by the way, Mr. Noob, in how much power would the 50-person guild need to acquire in order to make it closer to a 50-50 outcome? Because you have to admit, if the 50-person guild had 10 times the power on each individual person as the 200-person guild, it'd be no contest. The 50-person guild would win every single time. Like, they could probably stand there and stare at them in the face for 5 minutes before attacking and still win. But you know, where do you find the balance of all else being equal, and you only adjust power and hit points for each side? Where would that balance be? I personally, I think it's probably going to be like a 25 to 30%, something like that.
Yeah, I'm very curious. And also, like, what's the, like, one thing I've learned the most, and I don't know how you feel, Porcini, I also don't know actually how long you guys have both been following Ashes, but one thing I've learned is player expectation versus Intrepid intention. So when I hear PVX, I'm thinking the more balance of PvP and PvE, but it does seem, at least currently, I will say, in a kind of somewhat objective viewpoint, that it leans more PvP, but that's, I think, because there's not enough PvE systems in, and everything has to do something with PvP happening to it. But also, you know, if you're doing 50 v 200, is that supposed to feel 50-50, or is that not supposed to be 50-50? Is that supposed to be 25-75 or 30-70 or 40-60? And then the rest of that to get to that 50-50 is strategy. Things like that.
Yeah, it's certainly complex. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question. I do feel like it leads
It's
into
hard.
the next question, though, or the next
Yeah.
point. But
About the corruption system.
yeah, the
So
thought.
okay. I'll introduce it real quick. So, Nonstop Nonsense says that corruption system is so easily exploitable. It's kind of mind blowing right now. And you know what? I'll just go ahead and let you lead in.
Well, I feel like at a base level, guilds should really only have one guild. I feel like there should be no additional divisions, ideally. That just seems, I don't know. It doesn't feel good. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like having the alt armies back in like wave 2 when suddenly everyone's making alts and then we're using them to vote, right? I feel like that was really horrible. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like then suddenly we have all these divisions and then you got all these people and they're going to level up their guild, right? But the problem with the corruption here on these crates is like, okay, so you have a guy and he goes corrupt to kill a crate runner, and then somebody else who's outside of the guild kills the corrupted player, takes the stuff, and then they lose the corruption. So if you were in the same guild, you couldn't do that, right? So you have to be in a different guild. But let's say there was only one guild, and then they had to drop guild to do that. So there's like always seems to be some like way around it to gain the advantage, to sort of like circumnavigate the system. And that's where I'm like, how do you fix that, right? Because people are just going to find some other approach so that they can kind of get away with it. You know, it's not really an exploit. It's just like I don't know. I guess for lack of a better word, it's kind of like an exploit. Because then they just join the guild again after 24 hours. So then what's the point of even having a guild, right? Why don't you just have a guild? You don't even sign up for the guild, and then you could do this all the time, right? You just don't have the guild tag. So
Right.
I don't know. I guess you would
It's a
lose the
tough
benefits of having the guild perks, but I don't know. It seems difficult to balance.
The hard thing is, how do you stop guilds from having multiple segments of their guild sectors, if you will?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like account bound, like you can only have one, but then I don't know. Does that apply to all of your alts? You know, because then they would take up space in those guilds. I'm not sure.
Good question. For those that are wondering, a general item here is that the runner runs a crate, gets attacked by like 90-95% of the way to the death. A second low-level friend or an alt account gets the killing blow. Low-level gains corruption. High-level attacker slays the low-level. Corruption is then cleared. The high-level didn't get corrupted, and the high-level is also the one that gets to finish the crate run. And then Vertec pointed out somebody in the comments whose born promotion, 9712, has an interesting addition to help combat the issue with the picking up of the crate of a recently slain player also turns you purple. I'm not sure. I'm really curious to see how this whole crate system thing works out.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, right? As long as there is a system, there's going to be somebody trying to find a way around it. And I just think the corruption thing, this nonstop nonsense person may have it right. I mean, it's currently, and here's the disclaimer, right? So the train is a moving development with many platforms. So things are going to change. Everything's being tested right now. But in the current iteration, there's a bunch of different ways to get around this and that, but Blight's not in there, so it's not going to be like a long-term like stacking thing that's going to really impact your character in a long period. So
Yeah.
it's tough to really judge much, except to just say that right now it doesn't feel good. Or right now there's some weird stuff going on, and that's definitely one example is the corruption. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it an exploit, but the circumventing of the corruption mechanics in the way that they are is not fun, for sure.
Yeah, it's so you said that there's no like consequence for having blight currently.
Yeah, it's not
Not
like,
really. Not any real consequence.
yeah. So if someone goes through and they slay a non-combatant like 7 times in a week, but they clear it off right after every single time, they're not going to instantly get like 73 stacks of corruption the next time they kill somebody. They're just going to get the 1.
I see.
At least
maybe
from my
that's-
understanding. That's how it's been
Yeah.
explained to me, because I have never gone corrupt, so
Maybe
personal
what would be
experience.
cool
Me
Is
neither,
if-
Vertec. I remain
maybe what would be
pure.
cool
Sorry,
is
Porcini,
if
go.
the blight somehow was tied into like the corruption of like at Carfin, right? You've got this like interesting world building system, and perhaps that blight starts to take over that character and maybe it has certain benefits, but also has some like severe consequences. So when people do try to circumnavigate this system, they start taking all this blight, and perhaps something really bad can happen to that character. I don't know what that consequence could be, but it would be an interesting way to tie it back into the world building in the game.
Yeah, I do know that like it's not in yet, but there should be situations where like literally the more blight you have, the less nice that the vendors and people will be towards you. It's just not in yet.
Okay.
So you will have real world consequences for your blight tracker. And I think he had mentioned there should be like a quest or some sort of thing that you have to go and do to clear off the blight in order to get rid of like however many stacks you have. But he doesn't want red to be viable, and he wants it to be something where it is punishable for choosing to go through that. And also Lamina says the religion system is supposed to interact with the blight some way.
That's
Curious about that.
interesting.
That sounds really cool.
Perhaps it could even affect people's luck, right? So then you'd have this interaction between blight and luck, and then how much luck you have in a guild, right? And then like that might be kind of cool. I don't know.
ooh.
Well, it's-
What if luck stat impacted when you pick up, a player's ash pile, and how
Yeah.
much of that, when you pick it up, some of that just vaporizes away if you have negative luck. So if you get
I like that
corruption, you
idea.
go negative. If you don't get corruption, you won't go negative. So you get the full ash pile. But negative luck
Yeah.
will make some disappear, and blight adds negative.
I think there's something
And
too to
it makes you watch it disappear too when it happens.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious.
Mhm.
I do think that when a player's cap level and they've done everything they can, no matter what penalty you put in place for them, they'll find a way to overcome it. Unfortunately, they're gonna find a way to like, oh, I'm gonna lose my gear. I'll get double sets of it. Like, so I wonder if it's almost like the inverse. It's like a corrupt player of cap level kills a level 14 or something. Maybe I don't get XP debt from that because it's an unfair kill. Or something like that doesn't penalize the player being killed. Like I don't lose materials from a corrupted player that has their blight level at a certain point. Because I think that players in this mindset of like wanting to hurt innocent people are always going to find a way to just do it.
Lasting consequences on your character, like the stat de-leveling and such like that, make it so it's unlocked. Like it doesn't stop like it would for a normal player that just has like 100% experience debt. And you have like a certain amount of power or like stat reduction.
But I
It's
guess
just uncapped
Vertec,
for
like,
somebody
would
with
that-
blight.
Like that, like once they accept that that's the consequence, will they just still do it anyway? Because if you're bored at cap level, what does it matter? It's like, oh, I'll get negative 1,000 experience debt. I could lose my, like, if they get to go have their fun and do what they do. And look, maybe not everyone's thinking this way, but I'm just trying to think of the farthest extreme of like someone. I think people are bored. I think people that kill people for fun, like the real easy kills, are bored. And that's what I'm trying to wonder. Like, how do you fix that?
Well, that's kind of why I was saying if it has a lasting effect on your character, then the more you go corrupt, the more blight you stack on, and the longer it lasts, the more you can get negative stats, and your stats get reduced to the point where you can't effectively do much. You're going to be a level, say 50 in the future, that has to go down to level 35 content to grind off your blight stacks.
And like go all the way back, like
And go all the way back
yeah.
up. Because
I mean,
then
that would
you're
be-
screwed.
yeah.
You won't be able to. I mean, sure, you could go into a raid, but you have to go into a raid with a bunch of people that are accepting of the fact that you have 10 stacks of blight or whatever.
I think what you're saying is a great idea. I just feel like people would build a system to be like, all right, then we'll just spend another month raiding everyone back and then do it again. And they'll almost like they'll like work with the system.
Could you imagine though how pissed off they would be if they're in the middle of a raid and they get some of these material drops or whatever, and somebody else comes in because they're all level 35, like a raid of 20 people or 24 people or 40 people, and a quarter of them or a third of them are like leveled down essentially because of their stat reduction. They're just going to get steamrolled by another group that says, hey guys, guess what?
I would hope so.
True.
I would
Corrupted
totally hope
RS
so.
are in this raid. Let's go get them. Half their raid is level 35 stats. Let's get them. And they just get wiped. Then they got to start all over again. So now they got more experience to work off.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Could be interesting.
Could be. No, that's not what I was asking. Okay. We have been going for an hour and a half. Litz, Porcini, do you guys want to continue chatting for a bit, or should I start wrapping us up a little bit?
I can keep chatting.
I'm fine with whatever.
Yes, it's whatever works for you guys.
Well, chat, do you guys want us to keep chatting?
I will don my mushroom hat.
Maybe do stuff with node settlement reputation, keep going corrupt in a settlement where it's vassal, then guards that. Yeah, I mean, the quartermaster, I'm pretty sure that that's in the intent eventually when they can finally get all of that in. Keep going. Okay. I'll go for the two people saying to keep going. We got this.
Yeah.
I feel like this also ties into the economy though too, because the more that you are corrupted or you have blight, the less you're able to interact with that. But currently in Vorkosagan, these are some very fun names to say, thinks that the economies in the system it's driving are at odds. And I think that this is important because not only did we have things like the crafting, the adventuring parts like PvE and PvP, those also tie into the economy. But the economy, in this person's opinion, is screwed because at every turn where they expect to see a gold sink, they have circumvented their own system with another cheaper and sometimes free system. And they kind of outline how exactly. Thank you for that. Cheers. In that post. So feel free to go check it out. But I think the important thing is, that it should feel like a synergy, I think, in my mind, between the artisans and the adventuring parts. You have the ability to level adventuring separate from your artisanship, but do you feel like currently, for at least the economy's sake, that the adventuring is at odds with, or is somehow in harmony, or almost could be in better harmony with the artisanship system?
Chidi, you want to go on that? I have my thoughts if you want to go first.
Basically what I said earlier, I think that the two systems need to have a bridge between them. I think common gear dropping, being deconstructed, and then recycled back into the crafting system somehow would be a useful approach. Go ahead, Litz, if you have more.
I think the economy, the greed of these players, like I'm looking at global chat, they're like 500 gold. I'm like, who has 500 gold? I'm like, I can barely keep myself at one. Like, and maybe people probably in the chat like, this guy doesn't have 1 gold. But
you trade in shiny coral.
I do trade my coral, and my potion business is not as lucrative as I thought it would be.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm moving kind of slow this phase too. I'm almost level 14 on my tank.
The Vertec, I don't think it's I think it's people price things.
Yeah.
Players drive the economy. And that's why it's a hard question. Like, I saw that, Chibi, and I was like, I don't know how to answer that. I'm like, I think it's like, because there's players that will get a mass amount of gold. I don't know how they get it. It could be through exploitation that they're not admitting. It could be because they just were in the right raid groups and just sold glint. But like they're there, and then in their minds, like, oh, like 1 gold is 5 gold is nothing. So now all of a sudden everything gets like a crazy price. Then when someone starts putting things on the market, they see the comparative prices and they're like going really high. So like it's kind of hard to say. I'm sure the developers are probably like, these assholes in this community are like, no, sorry, not everyone's an asshole, but like people are greedy. And this is kind of like, I mean, this is a regular society on our planet, is people will do whatever they can to make money. It drives everything we do, unfortunately. I don't know. Is there a way to like, I think if there was a way to produce money better, like have money be more like if I'm trying to just mine rocks and sell them, it's probably not the most lucrative, time consuming, like, but it's my method of like, oh, I'm seeing results on my own, but then I go to buy them out and everyone's like 10G and I'm like, okay, never mind, I'm not anything new.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So, but it's hard to say. I mean, would the game look a lot different? I think I was watching an episode of you guys before talking about this, and it's tough because a launch game a year and a half in and where we're at in alpha economy wise probably looks like night and day.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah.
that's
Like
definitely something to keep in mind. Like there's going to be some ramp up time and many differences between right away, within a month or 2 or even 3. Honestly, Ashes is going to be vastly different 6 months in or even a year in compared to 3 years in.
The whole node, like the idea of like I can log in, let's say for whatever reason I'm not there on launch day, which would have to mean something really bad happened as I'm playing this, because that's how much I've invested. I'm definitely going to be there on launch day. But point is, if I was there like 2 years in, I'm imagining I'd walk into a server that has cities, which we haven't even seen yet. I'm very also, if you said 2025 earlier, Chibi, like what you're excited for, I want to see what a freaking city looks like. Like I want to see what these cities are in these nodes. I want to see how like vast and cool they are. If there's nothing in them except the core section that we have now of crafting tables, fine. The fact that like I can visually walk up on a city will be so cool to me as like an immersion thing. But point that I'm making is like, I'm assuming that 2 years in, like you could walk into a much more thriving economy on different places and stuff. So
Can I add to that?
Sure.
I think like in a lot of, I like to think of it this way, as like, if you are a crafter or you're processing, you need to be able to earn an appropriate amount of experience to keep up with the people that are grinding mobs and dungeons, right? To keep it sort of balanced. I think the same thing applies to the economy. If you are going out into a dungeon, you got to be able to still earn money from that. And that makes sense because you're farming, artifacts essentially from these like creatures that are lost in these, dark delving areas. And same for artisans. If you're investing all this money into this craft, you need to be able to get the cost back that you're investing into your profession. So I think that's why those two systems, there has to be a bridge between them to connect them. Otherwise they feel isolated and maybe one doesn't have the means to an end or something. That's just my thought on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, point of view, man.
Some of the things that the chat are saying, Christopher says, I think gatherers may be undervaluing mats for the amount of gold in the economy. And I think to that, I'd say it's kind of hard to tell how much gold you have available to you in the economy. I think that that's important that, part of your job as an artisan, in my opinion, is checking the markets and ensuring that you see what the items are going for. And I think your name is Iyun. Iyun says the problem with the economy is those that get rich just feed each other. So artisans selling stuff back and forth to each other. And so emerging into the cost, if you're not in the economy, you lose basically. And then Volga was saying, what if there was like a greed system in the marketplace where when somebody clearly marks an item like 500 gold over the normal market price, let's say it was 20 gold, that they get like a ding of some sort? I thought that would be kind of a cool thing for a economic node superpower where like you can tell like because it's an economic node, like, oh, well, this one is definitely overpriced. It has like a certain little like indicator next to it that says like this is not the normal pricing.
Yeah, that's a fun. I like the sentiment of like what that they're getting at there.
Yeah.
With that. I guess we haven't hit on too, like there's no oaks in the anvils, and if someone wants to craft, I think that's really cool. The whole like transferring of materials. That's where I feel like the caravans can really thrive. But I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Like, it feels just like the Riverlands are like the capital. Like I feel like the Riverlands are the main area right now. And do you guys think that's just
it's the most fleshed out, so it feels the most natural because there's more things to do, more quests are live, more bugs are fixed, more even spacing and like interesting scattering of mobs. Like it's just the most advanced area, so I think it's just natural. It's going to feel that way.
And I think that players from previous alphas have been there, so they know the familiarity, they know the grind spots. But then I guess it begs the question of at launch, if you truly had a server with no alpha testers, everyone's just going to pick all different places, and like the anvils will be their starting zone, this will be their start. So like maybe it'll shape out differently. You probably will have less, I hope, violence. Like guilds will be more about prospering and making it really good. And then by the time like cap level hits, then it's going to be okay. Now we want to have wars and we want to control and stuff. But I feel like the way alpha has shaped things, there's a permanence beyond the testing phases, and that's community.
Yeah.
And the community here has been some are like us, that we like to do certain things. Others have more warfare on the mind, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a PvX game. People are allowed to play the game however they want. But what does that mean? What does that entail? What does that like come out with? You know what I mean? And is that healthy for their testing? Is that the results that is most beneficial to Intrepid? I guess that's my question for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think you really touched it where, you know, the current economy that we're experiencing and the scarcity that we're experiencing, or the lack thereof, as Nahili points out, really changes things, right? Because we don't really have that scarcity outside of the anvils at the moment. There's really no need for a caravan to transport resources anywhere because, well, I can run to the desert fairly quickly and get poppies, and I can run to the anvils somewhat quickly to get things that are specifically in the anvils. But outside of that, it's not really all that difficult, I guess.
There's not a dire need for poppies or dracana. Anywhere, right? Yeah, like.
Yeah.
But hopefully with recipe, like, is the idea you guys think that recipes and things that are going to be introduced will create a need for that? Like that's what I'm trusting their vision to be. And that's where like I you know, I'm Porcini and I have talked about this, but like there's a questioning, and then there's like a holding up hope, and then we just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah.
And all of that's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, right? Because if there's enough systems that aren't in place, then nothing's going to really run properly. Like, just imagine if we just still didn't have something as simple as the marketplace. Everything else in the game functioned the same, but just the marketplace wasn't running. It'd feel like a totally different game, especially in the trying to obtain resources and trying to obtain gear crafted by somebody or dropped from somebody or whatever. It'd be a really slow going system because everything would be, the economy itself would be slowed down to a slug's pace, and everything would be going through chat. So somebody needs to be online at that time when you're looking and in chat, paying attention to it.
Through trade chat is a scary concept of
and then near their storage so they can actually get to the thing, because if they're in Joeva and they need something out of their Winstead storage, they're probably gonna, I'm not gonna worry about doing that. I'm not doing that right now. And they're gonna ignore it, and you're never gonna get that thing.
Yeah.
So something as simple as the marketplace can just not existing. So all these other things that are just not really in the game, or not quite beyond the placeholder spot.
Yeah.
think there's plenty of room for updates and growth to fix some of the issues.
If I can, I want to touch on another thing that really affects the economy. And I think Ian kind of brought this up, and that is like with the inclusion of the new vassal system, it has definitely had some less than favorable responses or reactions or effects on other settlements around it, where certain settlements, not only within the anvils but also within the desert, were unable to properly level, and that also has a huge impact on economy and how nodes grow settlements grow, and what vassalships those settlements end up having, and things like that. The fact that, I mean, Dunehold had to try and level their settlement up there in the anvils multiple times before Steven ended up ultimately coming in and leveling it for them is unfortunate. And I believe you guys are also up there in Kaltaram, and I'm imagining you guys also had some difficulties with the different nodes or settlements leveling also. But I think getting to village stage, for example, is a huge change in economy, because now you've opened up a whole world of apprentice capabilities that didn't exist prior.
It also gives like players, I mean, I've been like out in the tropics, and kind of like piggyback off what you're saying, like I've been in Corinne, and I just, because I've found like mining coral and stupid stuff, just I found it fun. It's my thing. It's not like this isn't a normal way for players to play, but I'm putting a lot of resources into my storage in Corinne, and I'm waiting for the day I'm like, oh, the second this has an alchemy table, I can take everything I have here with no risk of transferring it, and I can just level my alchemy in this town. And like Porcini earlier today, we were talking, he's like, oh, our guild needs some goals, and I'm like, oh, bring them to Corinne and create an established town and everything. Like, and I know that's probably not our players' prerogatives and stuff and everything, but there's something cool about that. But then there's also like, if no one ever does it, how long, I guess, are these places supposed to sit as a wilderness? Is sort of like what you were just saying begs the question too, right? Like, how long? You said Steven had to come in and like actually like level it. Like, that shouldn't be the case in a live game. So it's very interesting. Like, how do you fix that on a dev level?
Yeah.
On a player level, like, how do we fix that? Like, should we be banding together and stuff? Like,
No. So I agree, in a live game that shouldn't be the case, but thankfully this is just alpha, and the situation was the players banded together and leveled the node or the settlement multiple times. The settlement just reset in XP.
oh, is
so
that
instead of it,
is that like a
I
bug?
see.
it was a big bug that was
okay.
happening. It was not just visually. The initial, because I checked into this as well. The initial thought was this was just a visual bug, and that, for example, if you got your settlement to 97%, and then next thing you know, you looked up and it was at 0%. The intention, if this was a visual bug, means that if you got to 3%, that it should then level up to a crossroad state, for example. But instead, multiple guilds or settlements found that after getting it to close to 100% multiple times, it never leveled to the next stage of settlement. And ultimately, after being searched into in the back end of things, they found that it had to do with the vassalship system being placed in. It was causing an issue with certain settlements not leveling.
Gotcha.
That makes more sense. Okay.
Actually,
Yeah.
Chibi, I'm sorry. You made me think of something. I don't know if you've covered it in the tavern before, but has there ever been like a topic of when to report a bug and when to recognize a bug? I feel like as I go around and see things, like this is sort of something that pops in my head where I'm like, some stuff I'm like, oh, that must have been reported, and then I get kind of lazy and I don't report it. So not something very obvious, but then what you're saying too, like, is there's an idea of like developer intention, and sometimes I give the developers' intentions the benefit of the doubt, where I'm like, oh, maybe they want it this way. I'm not going to report it as a bug because it's not harming me as a player. And something you just said there about like the visual, like I didn't even realize that the visual progression was corresponded to the percentage. I just thought like
Gotcha.
once it hit 100%, boom, now everything changes. I did not ever realize that that was a thing. And maybe people watching too can see like I I didn't know that was a thing. So like now that I do and I don't see that stuff, I might be more apt to report it and be like, hey, there's not, you know, I'm not seeing the tents and stuff that I normally see in an encampment.
Right.
So I guess my question for you guys and for anyone else in the chat is like, community of testers being like, are we all on the same page with what's supposed to appear, what's supposed to be there, what's reportable, what's not?
Well, I can tell you from TGF standpoint, something that Vertec and I tout constantly is, if in doubt, always bug it out, basically.
I like that. It's a good slogan.
Report every single bug you come across, even if you think somebody else reported it. It doesn't matter if somebody else reported it. If you are only the second person to have possibly found that bug, and or you think it might be a bug, if you don't report it because you think somebody else reported it, that may go underreported, and Intrepid may not have realized that that was an actual issue. And one thing that Vertec and I do in our gameplay and also with our guild is, hey, I found a bug. Can so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so come here and try to replicate said bug? Or where you are, can you try to replicate said bug? And then we will all like talk about it while we're all testing out this bug for the moment, and then we'll go back to playing.
That's a really good system that you guys have going.
That's really awesome.
That's actually awesome.
And the other thing that
you guys for that.
Lamina mentioned is even if it's not a true bug, but it just feels like it might be a bug or it feels off to you. Lamina says if the intention feels off, they'll probably want to know that too.
Yeah.
So they'll get a bunch of bug reports to say, this thing is broken. It's supposed to do this. Well, if a lot of people say that it's supposed to do this thing, but it's not, then there's some kind of messaging that they need to work on, be it visual, audible, or just environmental.
Yeah, no, that's
and we have a section in the Discord, Litz, where you can throw in bugs that you see.
I know our guild has our own systems too as well. I totally know that stuff.
So you can always copy and paste it if you end up duplicating it. But
no, it was just like talking to other, I talked to our guild and stuff, but I was just curious.
Wondering what the wider communities are doing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm a hermit and stuff, so my interactions with other players are in character when they come across me, and most of the time I'm like, say something very like, how do you do? And they're like, sup, dude? I'm just mining rocks, and like very well, sir.
Volga says, chat, we're looking to eradicate the cucarachas. Kill the bugs. But yeah, I think that bug reporting is very important. I think that's the biggest purpose of the alpha is if you're never sure, just always submit it, and if you're not sure if it should be a bug, I also sometimes will reach out to like Roshan or Vaknar. Often I'll create a thread on the official Discord and then tag Roshan or Vaknar in it to see if they have any thoughts on it or see what other people have come across. So
yeah, no, that's a good
but Vertec, you had something that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, there's this thing, and not a lot of people have reacted to it in Reddit. And I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, that there's not more reaction of some sort. And that is Sunaris posted up something where... Oh, I think my ears just died.
Uh-oh.
Give me a moment here. Bear with me, bear with me.
While his ears are dead, I'm going to go ahead and paste this out for him. He ends up having a Google Doc sheet that's shared in the post, but I'm not going to share that here. I'll just share the post with you guys while he's coming back.
Cool, got it. Thanks for putting that out there. But yeah, it's a really interesting document for those who are actually curious about how the economy is doing and how the current schema for the grades, tiers, and rarities are for crafting items. Because this person went through and looked at every one-handed sword from Initiate, Tier 1 Common, all the way through Radiant, High Tier, or Tier 3, and Legendary Rarity. compared to all the stats, and you can see, like, looking down towards the bottom, it works almost exactly how you would think. It goes, you initiate low or initiate tier 1, and then all the rarities in order, and then initiate tier 2 and all the rarities basically in order, with an overlap between initiate